Hey, good people. It is Takia the teacher with today's teachable moment. So, today's teachable moment is called Personally, this content may be disturbing. And it is inspired by the group of women who I have come to know as my friends, my sisters, my confidants. They are my people. If you've ever seen Grey's Anatomy, when Meredith tells Christina, "You're my person," they are my people. And so this episode is inspired by them. It came from an event that I was attending over the weekend. And so one of the questions in the game we were playing was, if a famous author wrote a book about the people at your table, what would it be entitled? And so my table came up with the title, Personally, this content may be disturbing. And it's all based upon the fact that throughout life, many of us have gone through and have dealt with many things and situations, and we have stories that really are, in a variety of ways, disturbing. Some of them we tell, some of them we share, others we just carry with us throughout every day. But the more I thought about that title, I said, that would be a really great title for a book. And then I thought about it some more and I said, well, no, it's too good for a book. It needs to be shared now. And so, in my back and forth about where actually to use that title, whether or not it would be a podcast on my Redefining Thoughts podcast, or a blog on the Redefining Thoughts blog, or a blog on Notes from the Teacher, I decided to go with a teachable moment on this YouTube channel. And it will still appear on all the other outlets as well, because I just think the overall message is one that needs to be shared. So today is February 1st. It is the start of Black History Month. As a retired educator, I personally believe that Black history should be taught every day, all year, because it doesn't just go away after February. There are many more things to learn. But be that as it may, this is the month on the calendar dedicated to the stories that have been told about things in our culture, the stories that were written, the stories that were passed down from generation to generation, just learning about all of the things that have happened in the United States, abroad, that celebrate the people that we are. And so from that, came a whole other thought, because in another conversation earlier this week, someone made a comment, well, everybody's writing a book now. Everybody wants to write a book now. Well, for me, being a teacher turned editor, I think it's great that everybody writes a book, because if everybody writes a book, then I'm always employed. But even more than that, the books tell the stories that remain long after we're gone. And so whether you choose to write a book, whether you choose to create a blog, whether you choose to just put pieces here and there on the internet, the importance of telling your story is one that starts with you, and it can start today. And it's not just about, spilling all over the page and telling every little detail of your life. The story is the story, and the story will always be the story. But the thing that becomes the most important and the thing that is the most lasting, it's not just the story itself. It's the lessons that come from that story. And so myself, I have plenty of disturbing stories, but I choose not to highlight the story. Again, it is what it is. I give enough details to know what that story is. I give enough details so that people understand these are the events that took place. These are the things that happened. These are the feelings that were there. But what's more important than that is what I learned from that story. Each of those stories comes with its own lesson. Every day in life comes with its own lesson. We have to do our part and do better and finding out what those lessons are, and taking a minute to sit and write down, type out, speak out if you do voice notes, whatever you do. Just think about the things that you are learning day in and day out. Think about the level of resolve that you've had to come to over a multitude, of situations. Think about the ways that you've grown. Think about the things that you've learned about yourself. Think about the things that you've learned about God. And so the important part to me in a lot of things, especially now the things that I'll be releasing throughout this year, are what were the lessons that God gave me throughout all of these things. I didn't go through them for nothing. I don't have all of these disturbing stories for nothing. My disturbing stories are there to help someone else lessen their disturbing stories. My disturbing stories are there to let someone else know who may have a similar disturbing story that it's possible for you to be on the other side of the story. My disturbing stories are about survivorship and survival, period. And the fact that you can now thrive past the story that you had to survive through. And other people need to know that. And each of us has our own disturbing story. And so whether you choose to write out your disturbing story, whether you choose to just pass it down in your family, whether you choose to do anything else with that story, you could write a movie script, whatever it is. I think that especially in the month of February, we need to take some time and dedicate it to telling our stories, because our stories are a part of the history of us. Our stories are a part of the history of our lives. Our stories are a part of the histories of our families. And so when we do that thing and we take that time and we tell those stories, be it we tell them verbally, be it you decide to start a blog, be it you decide to start this month to write a book, whatever it is that you decide to do, make sure that you tell the story of your life in a way that honors you and honors what you've been through and honors what you've learned. Don't just spill all over the page. We have enough of those. The tabloids are full of everybody just waiting to tell all. And that doesn't necessarily accomplish anything. So what if we know all of the random, sordid, horrible details? What does that really do in the grand scheme of life for anybody other than create more gossip for people to just spread around and mix up and make wrong? And even when you tell limited amounts of the story, somebody always has something to say. They talked about Jesus. They talked about him. None of the rest of us are exempt. He died because people had the wrong idea of who he was. And so none of the rest of us have anything else coming in that regard. However, he's given each of us a story. He's given each of us a triumph. He's given each of us a victory. He's given each of us a win. And so what we should pass down from generation to generation is not the woe and the sorrow of these stories. It is the fact that, yes, we were in these stories. Yes, our family was poor. Yes, our family faced homelessness. Yes, our family did not have a car. Yes, we lived in this horrible situation in this place. But look at where we are now. Look at what we have now. What did you learn from that things? You learned how to be a better steward of your money. You learned how to take your education seriously and do something else. You learned how to do a new skill. I stopped teaching and became an editor. I learned to use the things that I developed 18 years of teaching to turn it into a whole other career path. We all have disturbing stories. We all have stories that are grand. We all have stories that are mundane. We all have stories that are just stories. But whatever those stories are, you need to see to it that your family knows those stories, and not just the story, not just the sort of details, but that they know that you have victory over that story. We overcome by telling our testimonies. Stop carrying them with you and carrying all of that stuff with you. You don't heal until you start to talk about it. You don't know that you're healed until you begin to talk about it, and talk about it in a way that's beneficial and healthy and helpful to someone else. And so give things their space, give them their time. And if it's not time yet to tell your story, that's perfectly okay. Journal it down for just you to know. But when the time comes, it may be that you put your disturbing story in a book, in a blog, on your own YouTube channel, on your own podcast, wherever it is you decide to air that story, you'll know when it's time that story should hit the air. And so if you're ready to write your story now, join me for Writing 101. The link's in the comments, and hopefully I'll see you in class. Happy Black History Month. Peace.